So, hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have you here. And it's a kind of pretty strange time to meet people mostly in this setting, you know, in a gallery view, yeah? But that's as close to human contact as we can get now. And I really hope that you all are saving the planet by staying at home and healthy and maybe a little bored even. Hopefully you poured your favorite drink and now are sitting in a very comfortable armchair, and I'm sure that the next hour you would really enjoy yourselves and learn something new. And so the whole world now is being affected by the virus, and actually moreover, not by the virus itself, but by the precautionary measures that governments are taking to protect people from the virus. And it affects our lives, it affects how we communicate with each other, it affects business, obviously. And many industries will not fall, but suffer significant losses. While other industries, okay, or some might even be booming. And actually, segments of the tech market are, you know, are feeling all right, like I'm sure feeling really well, you know, when the share price, I think, skyrocketed, right? It's more than 400% growth, right? Just in the last month or so. And since media is an essential component of any market, I'm sure that all of us, people from the business, are very interested to understand what's going on with the media. And how do you want to change? What do you want to change? And what is the best, most effective win-win strategy for our collaboration during this hard time and after? And tonight we have an amazing array of speakers that could answer these questions and more questions. And I'll start with Mike. Mike Butcher from TechCrunch is one of the most, if not the most prominent tech journalist in Europe. Lydia Dishman from Fast Company. You
just one of them.
What?
I'm just one of them.
Well, you're being too modest, huh? Lydia Dishman from Fast Company, as far as I understand, you work with other media, American media as well. So you know what's going on there. And Stewart Rogers, the senior editor at Grid Daily, and just an amazing, multifaceted personality, amazing writer, founder, singer. I mean, I could go on, but just a great friend as well. And me, my name is Nastasia Sadina. I'm leading a small marketing company called One Step to Market, which helps startups go global or land softly in the UK. And this event was prepared with a great support from Entrepreneurship Club of London Business School, and I thank you guys for that. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for joining tonight, and thank you. I'm sure that you will enjoy it. So without further ado, let's start. And since we have here people who have a sort of bird-eye view on the tech market, and you are journalists, are the first to sort of feel the emerging trends, yeah? Let's use this opportunity to sort of understand what's going on the tech market right now. So, Mike, would you be able to talk about this?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks very much. Well, delighted to be invited to this event organized by the London Business School Entrepreneurial Club. Thank you very much, Nastia, for that. And I'm honored to be joining you guys with my esteemed colleagues from the media. I suppose that at the outset, you can say that this is, in some respects, not dissimilar to the great crash, the recession of 2008, when Sequoia, the venture capital firm, famously issued its winter is coming, slide deck. But of course, as you know, it's similar and completely dissimilar to that at the same time, in the sense that the effects it's having on technology startups and entrepreneurs are similar in the sense that it's becoming very hard to raise capital. Startups are saving costs. They are pivoting towards profits or revenue rather than growth. And it's all of those similar kinds of things that are happening. But of course, in much more straitened circumstances, a global pandemic, thousands dying. So it is both similar and dissimilar at the same time. So there are some things that we can draw from that era, but also we are quite clearly, and there's no way of saying this nicely. It's a totally different era, and we are going to have to adjust very quickly. Entrepreneurs are having to do the kinds of things they did in that era, but under very different circumstances, such as not being able to talk to their team straight face to face, not being able to talk to their investors face to face. So it's absolutely, really a very difficult time, and I won't labour the point. You're all very aware of it. But I think what we're going to see over the next few months, and I do believe it will be months and possibly a large proportion of the rest of this year, if not longer, unfortunately, that the startups and entrepreneurs that can survive in this environment will think extremely quickly, think on their feet, have already been started to pivot in different directions, in more kind of remote working oriented directions, which we can talk about later. And I think that the media as well, we're also getting used to the whole idea as well. Part of a journalist's job is talking face to face to entrepreneurs and to investors in this space, and it's different scenario when you're doing it completely over video. So I don't want to go on for too long, but that's just a sort of a couple of opening thoughts, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see this similarity and dissimilarity with the previous crisis?
Well, I think I covered it just now when I said that, previously you could get your team in a room if you're an entrepreneur and say, listen, we have to cut some people, or we're going to have to, pivot in a different direction. You can't do that anymore. And I think famously, we just saw that with Bird, the scooter startup, who had to sack and lay off a lot of their staff. And they did it effectively via one big Zoom call rather than face-to-face, even on a face-to-face in individual scenario. So that was very, very difficult for those concerned, obviously. Thankfully, the entrepreneur, the CEO, realized afterwards that it was a very strange way of doing it. I'm sure we can speculate on whether or not it was a moment of convenience or not, but that's another issue. But it is a very, very strange scenario. So I think we are going to have to really, really get used to this extremely quickly. And I think that the people who can get used to it quickly will manage to succeed in some shape or form.
Do you believe that any kind of segments of the tech market are better positioned to survive, or even to benefit from not from the current crisis as well, but I suppose from the habits that will emerge from the current crisis, and what those habits might be? I'm asking you to be a sort of futurist here a bit and infer from what will happen in society and in economy and how it will affect the tech market.
Is that for me?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think you can see some winners emerging early on. For obvious reasons, hospitals now require a great deal more automation because the coronavirus is so infectious. So we're now seeing robot makers like Blue Ocean Robotics in Denmark, Care Cleaver in France, No Isolation in Sweden, now basically going into robotics and into medical robotics to aid the crisis. Obviously, remote meetup solutions like the one we're on right now, obviously Zoom. There's Hopin, which is a kind of a virtual conferencing platform. There are a number of others. Crowdcast is probably going to do well. So the virtualization of events, and of course biotech. Biotech is going to be incredibly important. Companies that are able to do either big data around searching for vaccine solutions or testing. Obviously in CureVac in Germany, there's HealX in the UK, Excentia in the UK as well. And I think also potentially finance, so fintech, in other words, remote banking. So all of the startups we've become aware of in the last few years, like Monzo, Revolut, etc., ones which enable you to do a lot of everything you do without having to enter a physical bank, will do okay. I think in terms of if you are, talking about companies that are going to lose, well, I think we can obviously go through those quite easily. It's going to be companies heavily invested in the transport space, BlaBlaCar, Wanderio in Italy, Omio in Germany. Also in business travel support, so supporting business travel, like Bizaway in Italy or TravelPerk in Spain. Rental companies, home rental, Airbnb, Home to Go, etc. In Germany, and also travel platforms, Get Your Guide, big travel firms, Tour Radar in Austria. So if you're moving, anything to do with moving around is going to have a real problem, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to those companies.
I see. Would you agree, guys? Stewart, Lydia? What's your ideas about this? What will happen in the tech sphere and with the tech industry, and what parts of this tech landscape will change and how? In the short and in the long term. So, I know I'm building up the question, but maybe you could answer the one that you like most. We'll start with the one that you like most. Lydia?
Sure, I'll take it. One of the things that we're seeing right now, just across the board, it doesn't necessarily have to be a tech company, is a huge increase in the appetite for articles that just discuss some real basic stuff about managing remote teams. Most people have never done this, never done it at this scale. You might have 10 people who are working remotely. It's a very different thing to have an organization of 2,100 people working remotely, all of a sudden, all with very different capabilities. So there's been a lot of conversation around which tech tools to use. And certainly we saw the stock of Zoom skyrocket. And then when the privacy issues started coming to bear, things started to fall apart. And so we've also seen a number of companies starting to talk about what tools are going to replace the ones that do have some issues with privacy and security. So, is there an alternative to Zoom that is more secure? And we've certainly been seeing some companies step up to the plate and try to fill those holes with their technology. And then there's certainly just management issues around, how often do you check in with your team? I mean, certainly one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs are having an issue with, in addition to all of a sudden having their business maybe go away on them, is even if they have a small staff, to not necessarily micromanage in an era of uncertainty, which is the place where our brains tend to go. When things are out of control, we want to exert as much control as we can over the things that we can see. And so there has been sort of this subtle undercurrent of conversation, which is, how often do you really need to check in with people to make them feel comfortable that the business is moving forward? Is this too much? Is it not enough? And so I think that the companies whose leadership really understands that it's important not to micromanage, but also to ride a balance of being transparent enough to tell staff yes, this is a problem. We really need to fix it. We need all hands on deck. We need you to put your sweat equity in right now. We may not be able to pay you. Those are kinds of things that startups historically have been faced with. So I think that they're better able to manage versus a larger organization. And certainly also pivoting. You know, as Mike said, we've seen a number of companies just stepping up, trying to figure out where their place can be in this new landscape. What current product offerings or services do they have that they can shift into working better for somebody that's dealing with the pandemic? So with that, I won't hog the mic. I'll turn it over to Stewart.
I mean, Mike painted a really interesting landscape earlier, but for everybody listening, I think it's important for us to realize just how big the impact has been. I mean, 2019, a global startup economy, it was estimated that it created $3 billion in economic value between 2016 and 2018. And then COVID-19 hits, and of course Chinese venture investing fell off a cliff, and everybody stopped investing, and most people are expecting 28 billion in startup investment to go missing this year, and that's just this year. It's probably going to be even worse next year. According to Dealroom, since the end of January, tech and internet companies in Europe lost $400 billion in total. I mean, it's absolutely staggering how bad. And you know, I think there's a couple of things that come from that. I've been famously cynical of the Silicon Valley model of doing business for a long time. This idea that, you know, you come up with a solution to a problem, and the first thing you do is go and get somebody else's money instead of creating what we used to create, which is a sustainable business that actually makes a profit. You know, look at some of the most successful startups in the last few years, and many of them aren't even making a profit yet, and some of them are actually projecting they'll never make a profit, which is the most bizarre situation for us all to be in. You know, if you're taking other people's money, obviously the investors want their 10x return. If you can create a sustainable business, however, and actually have it organically grow and look after itself, then you're in a much stronger and better position versus, you know, having the vanity metrics of, you know, raising huge Series A's and B's, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of the pivoting, you know, Mike rightly said, you know, anything to do with transport is going to be down, but we've also seen that anything to do with delivery is up right now. So, you know, can you take what you're doing and pivot it from a transport platform to a delivery platform, for example? We're seeing a lot in the home fitness area. I mean, Peloton's stock have gone up, and everyone else in home fitness is doing fantastic. Anything you can do at home, you know, that any of those supporting products and services are seeing a big boost right now. So, you know, could you take what you have and could you adjust it and change it and pivot it so that it is a home solution? You know, because obviously anything that involves the outdoors right now is dead in the water. And of course, the one that you know is big troubling. I mean, we all remember the tragedy of the WeWork story, but you know, co-working spaces are dying on their feet, and if you're already in a tenuous position anyway, that's going to be very difficult for you. What could you do with that space that might actually make you some money and help keep business afloat? Don't have the answer, which I did, but you know, there's a lot of real estate out there, and if it's owned, whether it's owned outright or through debt, you know, there's going to be a big problem for those companies. You know, the solution for those people, I'm not even sure. You know, Airbnb is desperately in trouble, and many others are. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure how you would pivot those particular companies into something that is going to survive this and make a profit, potentially grow even in the current environment. But certainly, fintech is doing extraordinarily well. So, you know, fintech is one of the areas that is actually won, if winning is the right thing to say in this situation. But fintech solutions are doing extraordinarily well, especially those that service the unbanked, because of course in the current situation, people are finding out that they do need credit to survive, and there's lots of unbanked credit solutions that are doing extraordinarily well in this time.
listening to you, I couldn't stop thinking that actually my belief was that at some point, I hope, quarantine will be over and people will start travel again. People will go to the cafes and bars, and it will be still kind of entertainment and festivals, and we are not staying at our homes forever. So don't you think that all those companies will pick up, like Airbnb and all travel startups and travel companies, etc.? Or
Well, first of all, we
a long-term trend that habits are changed forever? What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, we just don't know. That's part of what is causing a lot of people a lot of additional stress. There's a lot of mental health issues that are coming from this particular pandemic, and the uncertainty of what is coming next and how long it's going to last. That's something that is causing problems for startup workers and founders and everybody else involved in the tech industry. But just thinking about it logically, certainly we are in isolation or stay-at-home mode or quarantine for, I would suggest, maybe at least another couple of months at the very least, maybe even longer. There's research everybody likes to quote where they say, if you do something daily for 21 days, it forms a habit. It's another one of those BS pieces of research, because they've actually done the research on it, and they found out that the average, which of course is only in the middle of the bell curve, is actually 66 days of doing something repetitively. We're all changing our habits right now. Once we get past 2 months of doing things completely differently, we may not want to go back to doing it the way we did it before. And also,
not singing "Happy Birthday" when you're washing your hands, for example.
Yeah. But also, that's especially true if we are saving money by doing it the new way. It's especially true if we are more performant by doing it the new way. It's especially true if we're happier doing it the new way. Can you imagine doing something for 66 days, forming a habit, you realize that it's better than the way you did it before? Why would you go back? Famously, there's all sorts of companies that have managed to build products, and this is very much a hardware thing, but you could equally apply it to software if you're smart enough. There were heaters that were being sold to heat people's houses, and then the company that was making the heaters realized that with a slightly tiny bit of re-engineering, they could turn those heaters into water coolers. So they sold them one way for half of the year, and they sold them the other way for the other half of the year. And that meant seasonality went away. And it's possible, and everyone should have in mind that if they do pivot, they need to maintain a solution that is going to work in a more normal environment.
Peaceful times, yeah.